Giant Gorg is a mecha adventure anime that aired on TV Tokyo from April 1984 to September 1984. The story takes place in 1998 and follows our main protagonist, Yu Tamagi, who is instructed by his late father to meet his former student Dr. Wave in New York, along with Wave's sister Doris and their dog Argos. Insert your jokes if you're British or Greek. They plan to travel to Austral Island. Their reason for travelling to the island is as follows. It was the year 1990 when an island emerged from the sea and turned a boatload of people into dust. It would be named New Austral Island since it was close to the original Austral Island. But this island holds many secrets and the Gale organization has taken over it and is keeping it away from many eyes. They also included killing Yu's father, who was doing heavy research on the island. But since the main characters plan on going to the island, Gale catch wind of this and send men to assassinate them by any means necessary, from being attacked by a wrecking ball, to running from men in costumes in a Halloween parade, to getting shot at by an assassin. And keep in mind, this is only the first episode. The pacing is impressive for an anime like this. No yen was wasted here. With the help of Skipper, they go on a journey to leave America and head for Austral Island. On their way, they also get tangled up by Lady Lynx and a gang amongst other problems. Yeah, it's a show for kids, but it's an 80s Japanese show for kids, and those kinds of shows don't fuck around. Good times. The main group managed to make their way to Austral Island even with the trouble they get themselves into. Yu, separated from the group, gets himself into more trouble, and this is when he's saved by the star of the show, a timid giant sentient robot called Gorg, whom the locals call the God's Messenger. The group, along with Gorg, venture forward to find the secrets of the risen island, whilst having to deal with Gale and her army of soldiers, tanks and helicopters. And boy, I will get to that later. To sum up the anime, it's a show that takes influence from Tetsujin 28 Go, American cartoons like Johnny Quest, and it's basically a homage to pulp stories that we tend to forget. Giant Gorg truly has an adventurous spirit with some serious vibes of Steven Spielberg sprinkled all over it. Only it's an anime from the 80s, there's some kind of threat waiting around the corner, kids with guns are a thing, a giant robot will fuck shit up, and the secrets revealed will be sort of convoluted even for what it is. Yep, it's still an anime, and I wouldn't have it any other way. The anime takes place in two set pieces. The first few episodes take place in America, starting with New York, and it's an absolute shithole with a lot of graffiti and some unkind looking folks. It seems Charles Bronson has yet to clean up the place with his wildy and his mustache. From theft to a near hit and run, you can't catch a break, though it might actually be 3 set pieces as they go to Samoa afterwards for like 1 episode before they get to their destination. New Austral Island is mountainous with a volcano. Within the island hosts the weird inhabitants, from giant robot monsters, and yes, Gorg beats them up because the creator probably saw King Kong one evening, to at one point giant worms making an appearance because if a team who made this anime couldn't animate a tentacle monster and a female character alongside it, alternatives had to be taken. Yu Tamagi is your typical kid character in an anime, though he's an adventurous type and always caring for his friends, a kind person to boot, and his friendship between Gorg is near wonderful. Doris is the female character, same age as Yu, is a decent character at first but becomes that kind of character when she realizes how dangerous this adventure becomes. Dr. Wave is the nervous and scaredy cat scientist who is enthusiastic about the island but can never defend himself nor anyone else. Argos is a good boy, that's very important. And then there's Skipper. Now in some subs he's called Captain, but what I got was Skipper, so I'll call him that. He's the sole reason why the group was ever able to get to New Austral Island in the first place. He's large and in charge, but refuses to waste a bullet, and every one of them counts. He's tough, he can lay the smack down against anyone. Gale's soldiers close to him will get pummeled, and he also believes in gender equality. Once they reach the island, they're introduced to more people, including 2 kids, Arroyo and Sarah. These are some tough kids right there. The black kids of a newly formed group. They're cool. And they say anime back in the day and even today lacked diverse characters. At least I didn't have to look hard to find them, lazy fuckers. Our main villains include Roy Balboa, the CEO of Gale, along with his grandson Rod Balboa. Yep, they're the Balboas. In fact, Rod is technically short for Rodney, so Rodney Balboa. Fuck me, Japan. And we have Lady Lynx, a mob boss with her own henchmen, who want to screw her for Gale but wants to eliminate the main cast for some reason. She also had a relationship with Rod at one point, but that's not elaborated that much until later in the series. Going back to Rod, he seems to have vibes of a rich playboy with his sports car and being close to his grandfather. Though despite him later in the show wanting to destroy the giant robot, the man has sheer determination for everything he does, even at the expense of being defeated nearly every time. He's the kind of person you can't hate. Wait. Who voiced this guy? Ikeda Shuichi. You mean the guy who voiced Char Aznable from the Gundam series? Son of a bitch, that explains it all, doesn't it? Other than that, there's the villagers with their leader and their trust levels of the main group going all over the place to where the viewer probably wouldn't care if they all perished. Dark thoughts, I know, but I would like a bit of consistency. But then there's the blue giant robot Gorg. First and foremost, I love this design. Outside of Gundam, this is probably one of my favourite mecha designs ever made. It's not as blocky or mechanical like a Gundam, but he's more tribal-like. He has the look of a protector of an island, and as a result, he makes for a really memorable robot, and yet he's as obscure as many other Japanese mecha shows from the 80s that isn't Gundam, as far as I'm aware. So anyway, what can Gorg do against the Gale army? Well, he obliterates them whenever they feel like fighting him. He cannot fly or have built-in weaponry, but he can punch, kick, he'll slam helicopters into tanks and other helicopters. He gets a gun later on, and when that runs out of ammo, he just uses it to whack things caveman style. Gorg is indestructible. Missiles, bullets, lava, nothing can stop this beastly bastard. I mean, he gets defeated once, but even then it feels too convenient to the plot and it's bullshit just to get to the next act of the series going. But other than that, he's undefeatable. But unlike Hadima, at least he gives a shit about some people's well-being. And if you think that having a giant robot that can't be destroyed doesn't sound all that interesting, think of it this way. Gundam is about war and the people fighting in the war, and the struggles and horrors that come with it. They just so happen to use mobile suits to fight said opponents. Giant Gorg is about a group of folks trying to discover secrets in an unknown island whilst being attacked by a corporate army trying to keep it a secret. It just so happens that the group has a giant robot to protect them, most particularly the main character. Gorg is a quiet, timid character and he does everything in his power to protect you and his friends. But when the Gale army attacks his friends, there is no escape from the giant blue robot. In fact, he kinda has the same color scheme as the MS-18E Camphor, and I like that mech too. Maybe the right shade of blue makes all the difference. Giant Gorg is a very action-heavy anime. In addition to venturing out into US territory in an island, we got gunfights, fistfights, a giant robot on his path of destruction because the power of friendship is powerful. The anime is very simple in themes, a giant robot protecting friends, corrupt corporations and the like, but any heavy themes like taking a life when we see you shooting a man for the first time, it's never brought up again. Another Gorg robot blasting Gale soldiers until they're dust, and you realizing how horrible death is despite befriending a giant robot who has done this throughout the entire show, never brought up again. I feel it wanted to explore those themes but realized it's a simple anime about a giant robot destroying things and focused on that whilst ignoring the glaring issues that the show forgot. So Gorg is a robot built by aliens who landed on Earth 30,000 years ago. Once they realized that there was a civilization, they thought they could be friends with them, but that wasn't the case, so hid underground for thousands of years and rising up in the hopes that humanity matured to where they could be much peaceful individuals. Yu meets up with Manon, the last of his race, and peace talks are fruitful until the Gale soldiers violently knock on his door, and Manon proceeds to answer back with the Second Amendment and his own purple Gorg, and starts to violently blast most of the Gale soldiers until they're dust, and Yu tries to stop Manon due to how horrible death is, despite again befriending a giant robot who has done this throughout the entire fucking show. And by the way, this is barely brought up again because that's in the way of Gorg continuing its path of destruction. It also turns out that Yu has some alien DNA in him as many years past. An alien of Manon's race and a human woman fell in love, smashed, and had a family that went on over time until we got to Yu. And it's mainly the reason why Gorg and Yu have that special bond. It's so Japanese, yeah. It's so bizarre, you know that twist came from Japan. Do I like the twist and does it work? Well, something sci-fi seems very logical, in fact we get hints of it early into the anime anyway, so the cat was out of the bag long before the reveal. Oh, and Skipper is not the good guy most of you definitely didn't think he was. It was obvious he had some dirty secrets from the start, since he gave no solid reason why he was willing to help the main cast throughout the series, and whilst he sends the island's secrets to the CIA, Skipper for absolutely no reason proceeds to do what Rod couldn't do and press A to pound this board in front of these scared and frightened men in one of the most what the fuck moments you'd never expect from this show. He punches, he knees, he shows us some titties that I can't show on YouTube because I guess it was the only way this 80s anime was getting funded. Where the fuck did the tone of this series go? And by the way, the reason for Skipper's double crossing is explained. He's back to being the good guy in the end because once again, it's distracting viewers from the army Gorg has to smash. Because it's not there to be philosophical or carry deep themes to make the show what modern anime fans will call better. It knows what it is, what it wants to be, and even when it dips into darker territory, it gets back up and moves along. Even if it's to the detriment of some people's experience. Plus, the wrapping up feels a little rushed. Maybe it needed a few more episodes to further explain some aspects, especially with the aliens. Well, never said it was perfect. In terms of voice actors, we got Mayumi Tanaka voicing Yu, who would go on to voice Luffy in the anime adaptation of One Piece. Other notable actors include Daisuke Gori as O'Donnell, who voiced a couple of Gundam characters, Dozul Zabi from Mobile Suit Gundam and Bask from Zeta Gundam, who would also go on to voice many characters in the Dragon Ball series including the Ox King, Umigami, Mr. Satan, and many more. I did talk about Suichi Ikeda playing Rod Balboa, who also voiced the infamous Char from the Gundam series, but he also voiced Shanks in the anime adaptation of One Piece, and Kite in the 2011 adaptation of Hunter x Hunter. Other actors mostly did supporting roles throughout their career, but they still give a good performance nonetheless. The anime would be produced by Sunrise, the home of the mecha anime, as they're the company who created the Gundam series in the first place. The animation and art style is great for a TV anime of the time, and since I like that kind of animation, it's perfect, in addition to the fact that it doesn't feel and look cheap most of the time. Yep, this truly is a Sunrise anime, another quality piece of work by TV standards. The music isn't that bad either. Whilst there are some pieces that fit the time period when the anime aired, it fits the moment very well, though my favourites are the more atmospheric pieces, especially in the second half of the anime. The anime was created and directed by Yoshizaku Yasuhiko. In the New York scenes, you'll see his initials Yas that he signs in his artwork. He was also the chief director, storyboarded episodes 1 to 4, designed the characters, and was the animation director. Originally hired at Osamu Tezuka's Mushi Productions in 1970 working as an animator, Yasuhiko eventually did freelance work on various anime, even working as a manga artist. The jack of all trades. There ain't no Japanese blokes built like him anymore. In terms of the anime that he worked on, we got Space Battleship Yamato, Zambot 3, Crusher Joe the movie, and of course he worked on character designs for Mobile Suit Gundam as well as the sequel Zeta Gundam. And that was all he did with Gundam until many years later with the two Gundam OVAs, Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn in 2009 and Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin in 2015. In terms of manga, he created notable titles like Venus Wars, Neo Devilman, and a biography of Joan of Arc and Jesus Christ. He truly is a man of culture. Need I say, he's a Yas King? Actually, there's an interview with him talking about Giant Gorg, and there's some very interesting tidbits. It turns out the show wasn't as successful, nor was it ever gonna be. In fact, Yasuhiko's work failed to get any promotions by Animage, an anime magazine from the 80s. In fact, Animage stopped promoting his work for whatever reason, possibly in his thoughts that his work wasn't good enough. What was worse is that Gorg's original broadcast was postponed, and during that time, the anime produced around that time evolved, and anime like Gorg weren't too exciting for anime fans at the time, even to where Yasuhiko called it half-baked that he rushed out to TV. Though he still has some affection towards it, I can see how people felt about this anime. I think Gundam kind of revolutionized the mecha genre with more daring and more deeper themes. Anime like Gundam and Macross were far more beloved and brought in more fans, whilst Giant Gorg was a show from the past, a kiddie show where a boy has a robot and beats baddies in a Saturday morning style adventure anime that was probably considered dated even back then. And we see how anime is treated even today, with certain genres selling better than others, and companies, or to an extent the creators, just sticking with those, lacking diversity in terms of said genres. It's a bit sad, but hey, if it sells, and if it doesn't, those specific shows don't get made. Giant Gorg is an absolutely fun and adventurous anime to watch. The animation for a TV anime is great for the time. It has an adventurous spirit that is admirable and something I kinda needed for reasons. It's that anime to watch when you couldn't leave the bloody house. I mean, it's a story about a boy, his robot, an adventure in a secret island along with some buddies to travel with and baddies to thwart, and that includes said robot going wild in violent one-sided battles, son. Sometimes that's all you need to be entertained, and it sure entertained me. It ain't perfect, and like the Yas Man said, it feels half-baked and rushed at times, but despite that, Giant Gorg is a solid mecha anime and a fun romp to boot, and if you like or are interested in classic 80s anime, I recommend it. With a total of 26 episodes, I feel that's a good length. I'm surprised it wasn't 40 to 50 like the Gundam series. Giant Gorg has seen a manga adaptation, toys, of course it get toys, and its episodes have been released on VHS and Laserdisc. In terms of Western releases, Discotheque Media released the entire series on DVD in the US, and once again, nothing for the UK. So I had to look elsewhere for the series. After putting the finishing touches to the script, I found out that there was in fact a giant Gorg video game developed by ASCII and was released for the NEC PC-88 and Fujitsu FM7. It's a role-playing strategy game and no one has talked about it. It's so obscure that it's not even listed on GameFAQs. Damn, he also made an appearance in the 3DS game Super Robot Wars BX, so at least he isn't completely forgotten in Japan. Also, Man-on-Type Gorg did make an appearance in one of PewDiePie's videos talking about his collection of toys, and here it is, on the spotlight in one of the biggest YouTube channels around. Gotta spread the word of the Gorg somehow. Heck, even Rule34 is trying his best to spread the word. Please don't fucking search that up. Disgusting! And that should be it. I'm glad to have watched this classic anime, and I was able to come eyes to drawing with a mecha robot that I adore. I might return to Gundam in the future, or maybe something else, who knows.